I want to start off with some general questions for each of the four members of our panel. And then I asked, I don't know if they passed out some note cards. Matt, I think they're going to pass out some 3x5 index cards. And after I've had a chance to ask a few opening questions and so on, I would ask all the members of the audience to write down either questions, general questions to the four members, or if you want to specifically ask a question to any one of our panel members and so on, we'll try and answer as many of those as we can. And so the first question I would ask, and I'll start with Bruce, and I think this is one that we're always fascinated by, is basically the other panel members can think about this, is how did you develop your interest and love for baseball? Who was responsible? How did it happen? It's usually, either a family member or the town, in the case of Norway. He didn't have any choice. But I'd like each of the members of the panel to address that, starting with Bruce.
Well, I'd say probably my dad. We played catch every Sunday. He worked real hard. He worked for Wilson's in Cedar Rapids, but he always found time to play catch with me. And then being from Norway, we were a baseball town. I mean, the town teams, it was, they had to watch the baseball. The town team games on Sundays. We went to Watkins during the week. A guy named Jeff Pickert was big in Norway for us getting our lights finally for our high school, back when I was a senior in high school. And but Jeff would take us to Watkins. He'd load the kids up to watch games. So basically that was what we did. We played baseball. As a kid, as soon as the dew got off the ground, we played baseball in the baseball diamond. It's still there. At 2:30, or we'd take a break for lunch, but it didn't last very long. We'd get back down there and play. At 2:30, we'd take a break because that's when the newspapers came into town. All our papers be back down there playing ball. Take a break at 5 for supper and play ball again. And then we actually played wiffle ball under the lights on my dad's driveway all the time. We played a lot of wiffle ball we had a big lot on the side of our house. And one time my mom counted 45 kids in this. They came from other towns. They came from the farm kids came in to play. We had big wiffle ball games. And then, we just played baseball, and then we had great success. My dad, even all the working he did, my mom and I talked him into coaching our little league team. We won all the time. My dad always said we was going to win. When I was in Little League, we had a guy named Dick McVeigh, one of the greatest high school pitchers that ever pitched in this state. And in Norway, we always had good baseball teams. I'll say good baseball teams. Growing up, Alan Schulte was a guy that played at Iowa. He was my inspiration because he didn't drink, he didn't smoke. His goal was on being the best baseball player he could be. But even as good as he was, they couldn't beat the Cedar Rapids schools because there was only one division in high school ball. Well, then Dick McVeigh came along, and he walked through the Cedar Rapids schools. He walked through the Davenport schools just to get to the state tournament. And then baseball really went to a different level when we won that first state championship. Rick Ryan actually pitched our first state championship in the fall, which was just small schools then because we didn't have football. But when Dick McVeigh wiped out the big schools in the spring, Norway went to a different level. And we always, the group that I came through with, we really expected always, we not only liked to play, but we expected to win. But after that, it just seemed like winning was something that had to be done, and the kids that followed us just kept it right on going.
Very good. Don, how did you develop your interest in, especially, obviously an umpire too? You love baseball, but...
Well, I don't think anybody's really born to be an umpire. I know I was not. I was drafted in the military, and while I was in there, I ended up at a Nike site out in White Sands Missile Range. And when I arrived at White Sands, the captain came in and wanted to know if anybody knew anything about baseball. And I raised my hand, which they say you should never do in the military. And with that, I got the post Little League team manager's job. And they told me to report to this playground on a Saturday afternoon and bring 3 other coaches with me. And you're going to have to select from the group of people that are boys that were there and get yourself a team to play in Las Cruces, New Mexico. We got there were 250 kids trying out for one 25-person team, and we selected the best we could. We went in and won the league for the first time. And after they had a banquet for us, and the general was there, and he asked me if I wouldn't rather be in the gym instead of out at a Nike site, and I said I sure would rather be in the gym. So he said, go to the gym in the morning and just, you'll find someone over there you can work with, and And so I did, and this master sergeant by the name of Bob Hendrian was kind of the head of the programs, and I started working for him, and he was an umpire. And all he wanted to talk about was umpiring, and I wasn't the least bit interested. And he said, you know, you ought to go to that umpire school. He said, you know, people make a living doing that. And I said, no, you know, that's impossible. And anyway, I got out of the military. I was down in Florida. I was dating a young girl, and she left, and there I was. And so I decided to drive up to Al Summers School for professional baseball umpires. And I walked in and asked him if he thought I might have a chance to become an umpire in the minor leagues. And he said, oh my gosh, you couldn't, you know, you can't miss, which merely told me all I wanted was my money. And so as one of the 85 there, I did get a job in the Alabama-Florida League and pursued the profession. It took me 9 years to get out of the minor leagues, but it was all worth it, especially the 30 years that I spent in the major leagues.
Very good, thank you. Art, how did it all begin for you?
Big pardon?
Yeah, how did you get interested in baseball? How did you get started?
Well, my dad was a great ball player, and I went to see him play a lot of games, and I wanted to be a baseball player. My dad was a great ball player, but he wouldn't leave my mother because she was so beautiful. He thought somebody would take her. So we was very poor in my day, and my mother was working for $5 a week to take care of 7 of us. My grandmother, my granddaddy, they didn't get no kind of Social Security, no food stamps or nothing. So Mom was working for $5 a week, sun up, sun down. So I decided, I said, when I got 16 or 17, I went out and tried out with one of the black teams, and I made the team. And some of the older ball players didn't like me because I took their position. So I went from there. I think the first pay, they gave my mother $125 for me to go with them and paid me $125 a month. And that was more money than my mother and I, we had. We was the richest people in the block at that time. So I went on and I played quite a few years with the American Giants in Kansas City. I guess you all know about this fella that passed, O'Neill, Buck O'Neill for Kansas City. He's 93. I played with him, Jackie Robinson, Campanella, Don Newcomer. I played with all the great ball players, Mickey Owens. I accidentally hit a home run off of Dizardine, and Sal Magley and all those guys. I played with all of them. Played against Roger Maris. The last time I saw Maris, he jumped at a ball I hit over the center field wall to knock him out of the pennant. So I just enjoyed playing when I was young, and I was making a few dollars to help my family. So I went on and played in Havana, Cuba. I hit the first Grand Slam in Havana, Cuba. They had a lot of major leaguers there, Mickey Owens and Artis and all those guys. And so Artis, he was saying that he was going to hit the first home run in the new park that one in Havana, Cuba. And Castro was a pitcher. Believe it or not, he was a pitcher. And he was a pretty good pitcher at that time. But at my age, I didn't care who pitched. And I was just young and could hit, and I just used to tell him to throw it and duck. And so sometimes the pitchers would throw at me then. But at that time, we never had no helmets like they got today, and we never had large gloves like they got today. We had just a glove to fit our hands, and we never had a helmet. And we didn't get many guys get hit in the head like they're getting hit now. The guys getting hit in the head now, I can't figure how they got these helmets and they just don't duck. Can't see why they get hit so. So I had a good baseball career, and I enjoyed playing with all the guys, and I jumped, the major leaguers jumped in, I forgot what year it was, a lot of them jumped down to Mexico because the Cascale was a rich man down there, and he paid a lot of extra money. They weren't making much money in the majors at that time. I think the starting was about $5,000. And so I played one in the summer, ball, and I made 5,000. But the highest I made in the black leagues was 600 a month. So that's why I jumped and went to Mexico, Cuba, and all those places. So I did pretty good. I made 10,000 year round. And so my favorite car was a Cadillac. That's why a lot of people ask me why I wear this. I used to own about 4 Cadillacs at one time. So that's why I'm broke today. So I had a good career. So I enjoy playing baseball, and I miss it very much. I see these guys today playing and making millions, and it really hurts me. I'm glad they're making the money, because in my day, we didn't make the money, but the owners made the money. We played in Detroit, and we had 44,000 people there, and they said Mantle hit the home run out of Detroit Briggs Stadium. So I hit one over there too out in the streets, but they didn't make no fuss about it like they did Mantle. But I could hit them as far as anybody, and that's why I always I played with Harvey Kimm. I played with all the major leaguers, and Roger Maris and all those guys. Roger Maris beat me in home runs, but I had a 340 batting average for the championship in Keokuk, Iowa, over those guys, Harvey Kimm and all those guys. And I played pretty good, but really I didn't do my real best, because I was a veteran, and playing in the black leagues was a major league, you know, because we would barnstorm against the majors. After the season, they never would let us play winter season against them, but after the season, they would get their all-star team, the Major and all those guys, and Mickey Owens, all of them guys, Bob Feller. But we had one of the greats, the great Satchel Paige. He was one of the greats. He didn't care about nobody. He would tell Feller and them that he only wanted 2 runs, and that's all he needed. And so we had some good ball players there, but I wish you all could have seen the ball players of yesteryears. We played for fun. We played for fun, and had teams like the Ethiopian Clowns. I played a year with those guys, and we wore skirts from back in Africa, you know, and they had us painted our faces, and that drew a lot of people, you know. They thought sure we was from Africa, you know. So they put on a good show, you know, and one guy would stand out, and the other guy would hit the ball, and he would run up and jump and catch the ball, and people thought he was catching the ball. He had the ball when he jumped. But they put on a good show. So baseball's been good to me. I get a little pension from the Yankees. I think they felt sorry for me because they kind of ignored me in them days. So I had a good life. So I thank you very much.
Thank you. Bob, you were born in Preston, right?
Preston, Iowa.
How did you find your way to the major leagues?
I was born in Preston, Iowa, a little town outside of Goose Lake now, out by Clinton anyhow. But anyhow, my dad moved to Iowa City when I was 4 years old, and we lived a block and a half away from an empty lot. And I had an older brother who was a pretty good ball player. He pretty well organized anyhow, my older brother was, and he always had baseball teams, and he was 6 years older than I was. And my dad would always chase me down there to follow him around, and somehow I got to play with a lot of people 4 or 5 years older than I was. And so after I graduated from high school, my dad says, you know, there was no scouts around back then, late 40s, and so my dad says, you know, you can play a little bit. I'm going to send you to Cocoa, Florida, to a baseball school for 5 weeks, $25 a week is going to cost me to send you down there. I think you can play a little bit. He says, I got you a bus ticket, 4 nights and 3 days, excuse me, to go to Cocoa, Florida from Iowa City. So I got on that bus, I went down there to Jack Rossler baseball school. After the 3rd week, I got the honor to sign a contract for $150 a month to play in Class D ball. And I called my dad up. I said, Dad, I just signed a pro contract. I'm going to go play baseball. I'm coming home. He says, you still got 2 more weeks down there. He says, you stay down there, I'll send you an extra $25, maybe you'll learn something. So that's how I got started. And so my first year in pro ball in Peoria, Virginia, I was a backup catcher to a kid by the name of Orlando Echeverrian, a Cuban. And in 4 years from now, he's going to be the starting catcher for the Washington Senators. It was a hot day in July. I mean, it was a beautiful hot day in July, a Sunday afternoon, and he comes to the manager. He says, Smut, me don't feel very good today. Me don't feel good today. He says, you take the day off. Bob will catch both games of the doubleheader. Well, in the first game, in the second inning, believe it or not, I hit 2 home runs in 1 inning. The 4th inning of that game, he comes out of the stands, but I feel better now. I can play the He did not play the second game, and from the rest of the season, I played almost every game except doubleheaders, and that's how being at the right place at the right time is how I. So the next year, I went back to the same place, and somehow I got lucky and was at the right place at the right time, and yes, I did see. I told Maz to hit the home run in 1960, and in the 9th inning, the beer was cold and the champagne was cold, so he did, and I was lucky enough. But that's the way I really got started.
All right.
And, yeah.
Okay. You guys. Collectively, you've been around the game for many, many years, but a question that I was talking to one of our participants in the symposium, and a question I think all of us are always interested in asking when you've got 40, 50 years being around Major League Baseball, minor league baseball, and so on, your whole life. Who was the best pitcher you ever faced, and who was the best, batter you ever saw? And I really want you to think about that a minute. And I don't mean the most dramatic moment necessarily, all right? The Mazeroski thing, obviously hard to top that. But I mean, in your long careers, who do you consider, and we'll go back to Bruce and start with you, and maybe give a few reasons why you think. I mean,
Well, when I played, they all looked tough when I hit. But I'd probably say Nolan Ryan was probably the best stuff that I saw when I was playing. But I mean, there's so many great ones. I mean, I caught Rich Gossage. I mean, Rich Gossage. He was unbelievably tough. Probably the greatest hitter would be Barry Bonds. And I mean, there's guys that could hit higher for average, possibly, but he was pretty dynamic, just from the standpoint he could do about whatever he wanted to. I mean, I saw the guy lay on the couch, come out 5 minutes before the game, hit a home run first at bat without even warming up. But he was just fantastic. He could hit the ball out to left field, center field, right field. But there's so many great hitters. That's a tough one because I was with Tony Gwynn in San Diego for 2 years. The guy, when he started batting practice, he'd say, watch out. He'd start hitting line drives in the side of the cage and work his way all the way around the field into the other side of the cage. Pete Rose, who I threw a lot of batting practice to when he was a player manager with Cincinnati, could still hit line drives with the best of them. Seemed like when he took batting practice, he was hitting the holes. Greatest hitter, there's so many great hitters, it's just hard to say. I mean, but during my time, I would say probably Barry Bonds, possibly. But boy, there's a lot of them. There could be somebody I could be forgetting. Well, Thurman Munson was an unbelievable hitter. This guy could stay inside the ball. It was fun just watching those guys take batting practice. They'd work their way right around the field, Thurman Munson, and then when they wanted to hit the ball out, he could actually hit it out, I think, when he wanted to. It seemed like in batting practice, But I've been very fortunate with parts of 17 years in the major leagues. I got to see a lot of great hitters.
Don, you bring a very different perspective to this whole thing.
Well, one thing for sure, I didn't have to hit them.
Yeah. But you still watch the great, hitters, and you watch the great pitchers.
Oh, absolutely. And we study baseball players, because we want to know what they're capable of doing. And without question, I think Nolan Ryan would come to the top of the list. Not only late in his career, he had some of the best stuff, curveball, slider, and still had a good fastball. I think when he came up originally, he came out of Jacksonville in the International League, and I was in the International League, and we were happy to see him go because he didn't have real good control, and a lot of times, they kind of felt like we could turn it into a strike for him. All we had to do is raise our arm, and it didn't work that way. So and at that time, he was throwing over 100 miles an hour, and which became a great challenge. Now, there's a lot of really good pitchers, and one comes to my mind is Catfish Hunter. Never threw real hard, threw a real mean slider, got a lot of pop-ups. Obviously, he's in the Hall of Fame today, and he was very good. And the other person that I can remember was a guy by the name of Drumbowski, I think his name was, and he was a minor leaguer. He was a left-hander. He came up with the Orioles, and he literally could throw the ball through a brick wall. I mean, he just threw it hard and never knew where it was going. And then he did get control, and then he threw his arm out, and he wasn't around very long. But he was really, I don't know, you probably...
I've heard stories about it. Steve Dalkowski.
Steve Dalkowski, okay, yeah. It's just something to watch, to see somebody that could throw that hard. And, you know, if you're back there doing my job, you blink, you're going to miss the whole thing. You know, it's just not what you want to do. And then hitters, you know, there's, it depends what you're looking for. Power hitters, single hitters, you know. Rod Carew was probably one of the best hitters I think I've ever seen. He could get a level cut at the ball no matter what the height was. If he wanted to hit a home run, he could muscle up and hit a home run. But basically, he wanted to, you know, hit for average. And Brett was another one that had unbelievable. They used to say about George, he could just fall out of bed and hit a line drive. And it was fun to watch those particular individuals. And if you want to look at somebody that had power, you look at Reggie Jackson, who strictly wanted to hit home runs. And he was very successful, obviously. And there's just so many good ones, you know, that don't fill in that that top rung. I don't know, just too many of them to mention them all, that's for sure.
Very good. Art, you bring a very different perspective to the question. Again, you saw a lot of different players that the other gentleman didn't have a chance to play against and so on. Who would you have considered your toughest pitcher to hit, and who were the best batters you played with?
Well, the toughest pitcher I faced was the great Satchel Paige.
Tell us about Satchel.
Oh, Satchel was Satchel. Yeah. When we played in Detroit, we had 44,000 people there, and I took my mother and my sister, and I hadn't seen my granddaddy in quite a few years, and I was young, and so I faced Satchel there, and American Giants with the Kansas City Monarchs. They had quite a team with Satchel and about 9 or 10 other Satchels pitchers. So I told Satchel when I come to bat, I was wearing khaki pants like golfers, you know. I was young, and he said, "Come on up, little boy," and that made me awful mad. And so I told him, I said, "Throw it and duck." Man, he threw 3 by me so fast I didn't even see him. So my manager told me he struck me out 3 times, and I never had been struck out 3 times. And my manager said, "Soup," he said, "don't let that bother you." He said he strikes out many of them. But I didn't sleep. We played a doubleheader, and they had another good pitcher there named Jack Mathis. And so my granddaddy, he had a box seat. He always hollered out and said, "Throw it and duck." He always remind me what I have to say. And so the next game, I think Satchel beat us about 4-2 or 4-3, something like that. And the second game, we played, Jack Matchett was the pitcher. He was one of the ace pitchers for the Monarchs. So I come up to the bat, and I was mad at the beginning. And so Jack Matchett, he could throw pretty hard, but not like Satchel. His ball looked like slow motion to me after I faced Satchel Paige. And I hit him over Briggs Stadium, the first pitch. And so I told him to throw it and duck too. And he threw it, and I think he ducked after I hit him out of there. And I didn't play against Bob Feller because I had got spiked in my foot one time Satchel pitched against Bob Feller. I think we had 30-some thousand there in Los Angeles. And I was on the sideline, but Feller was a great pitcher too, because Satchel would say, "All I wanted 2 runs." And he beat Bob Feller 2-1. And Bob Feller was a great pitcher. And this Sal Magley was a great pitcher too. And don't forget, I guess a lot of you all don't remember Dizzy Dean. He played for the Cardinals, him and his brother Paul, because he said, give me Satchel Paige and my brother Paul, and we'll win the pennant and go fishing by July. So we barnstormed against the Dizzy Dean, and Dizzy Dean, he could fire that ball. He could fire. But he couldn't throw as hard as Satchel. His ball looked pretty big when I said, so I hit a home off of Dizzy Dean. Then come to Sal Magley for the Giants, I think he played for. He played in Mexico. All the major leaguers, they were making more money by jumping to Mexico at that time. Mickey Owens and all those guys, and Max Lanier and all them guys jumped to Mexico because I think that guy Pascal, he's a rich guy in Mexico. I think he paid $25,000 for Mickey Owens, and that's the most money I made because they paid me $10,000. I never made that much money. And but major leaguers, they made more money than we did because they was named major leaguers, you know. But we played pretty good. I played against all of them, but Sal Magley was a good pitcher, and they had quite a few good pitchers. And they had a good pitcher down there in Havana, Cuba. I hit him too. I hit a grand slam off of one of the major leaguers in Havana, Cuba. And some of them would throw at me because I tell them to throw it and duck, and they didn't like that, you know. But I could hit that ball right back through the center, right back over the head. That's how I could guide that bat. When they throw it at me, you know, I'd shoot it right back through the middle. And I had some of them guys ducking at that time. But another good pitcher, he was so-so in Havana, Cuba. I guess you all know him, Castro. Everybody in the world know Castro. He was a good pitcher, but he wasn't. He was a nice guy in them days. He was just a ball player, and I never had no complaints about him because I didn't have no problem hitting him. He was a curveballer, and I would wait for him to throw his fastball because he never got his curveball over the plate. So I'd wait, and so I would hit him, and they had quite a few. Fred Martin for the Cardinals, he was a good pitcher down there, and old Mick Owens, he was pretty good, but one of my teammates, Clarence Drana, he was a good player from Cuba, Havana, Cuba, Caracas. And he hit a triple and was stretching into a home run. And Mickey Owens, he caught the ball, and instead of him tagging on Droney by the waist, he hit him right in the mouth with the ball. And oh my stars, that big old Cuban boy picked Mickey Owens up and shook him and threw him on the ground. And that's when the teams was all fighting, you know. And so in Mexico at that time, they didn't have policemen out to the ballpark. They had soldiers. And when all of them was out there fighting, and I was in the building, I was mixing them, trying to pull them off of Johnny. And these guys come out with these bayonets, these soldiers, and they stick you in the butt, you know. And them guys would all, they respect them too. When they come, everybody quiet down. So that's been my life. But them some great pitchers I've hit against, and I made quite a few of them mad because, you know, when you're young, you do a lot of things. But I was just mean and young and had a lot of fun. I'd tell them throw it and duck. But Satchel learned me a lesson, though. He called me a little boy, and I was mad ever since. Every time I faced him, I was mad. I think I played against him 3 years, and I think I only got 2 hits off of him in 3 years. And that's when he was getting old, you know. He had his foot about that long, and you know, Satchel would put that foot up in the air, and you look at his foot, and he'd throw the ball by you. Yeah, you should have seen Satchel in his days. He was tough. You know, he must have been tough. They took him in the major leagues when he was damn near 60. And he beat the White Sox, I think, 2-3 or something like 3-2. So he was tough. But I wouldn't have seen in our day when we was playing. We played for fun. And we steal bases, and throw the ball, you know, and I played center field and I had a shotgun arm. And I would always come in, you know, when a guy hit a ball over the second base, or a singer, a man's on second base, I'd come in and let the ball hit me up on the glove and bounce it a little piece from back to see him get around third base to score. I'd throw him out the chase. So that was my game. I enjoyed it very much.
Thank you. Bob, long distinguished career, good pitchers, good batters, the best. Who were they?
I put a lot of them in the Hall of Fame. I'll tell you that. I think there's close to a little over 40 that's in the Hall of Fame that I put there. One guy by the name of Williams, Ted Williams, I don't know why we even pitched to him, but anyhow we did. And one game in Boston, I was catching a knuckleballer from Cuba by the name of Carmen Marrero. Every pitch was a knuckleball. First 3 times up, Ted hit 3 knuckleballs for home runs. We got back about the 6th or 7th inning, and the pitcher says to me, Bob, next time Williams comes up, 4 fastballs, pitch outs, he says. So, but Ted Williams would probably be the greatest player I played against. I played with Clemente. There is so many guys that unbelievable how good they can hit. And Mano in the World Series hits, 4 home runs off of us during the World Series there. But I had the honors not to call any of those, so thank God for that. I was, but pitchers-wise, I had the honors to see 3 perfect no-hitters. I was with Jim Bunning the year he threw one in Philadelphia when I was there playing with him. On Father's Day against the Mets. I was in Oakland with the Minnesota Twins, coach with them when Catfish Hunter threw a perfect game, and it was the easiest 27 outs I've ever seen in my life. They didn't even need an umpire back then, Don. Every pitch was an easy fly ball, ground ball, and it was unbelievable how easy he made it. And then I had the honors to be involved in one of a guy by the name of Koufax or some damn thing. And I helped him into the Hall of Fame, going 0 for 3 in that perfect game that he threw against us in Philadelphia. But I put a lot of guys there, seriously. They didn't need much help after I hit against them. It's embarrassing when Koufax throws you a curveball and you swing, and then swings right down and hit the plate. That's embarrassing as heck. So, but really, there have been some great ones. The guy by the name of Gibson with the Cardinals, he never threw a ball straight, and he didn't throw no ball soft. He threw a heavy ball, and he had some action on his fastball. He was outstanding. But really, we go through the Hall of Fame, you can see a lot of those names I could put there, yes.
All right, very good. I'm going to ask one more general question, but I would invite, I think cards were passed out, index cards, if somebody would send them on down towards the front here, and I'll give you guys a chance to ask some of your questions too. But the last question I wanted to ask is you represent a lot of decades of change in baseball, and obviously going back to the 40s and 50s up to the present. You've watched the game after you've left the game, and some of you are still involved, never really have left the game. What do you think some of the most dramatic changes in the game of baseball are, both for good and for bad? Obviously it has its detractors. Most of the people in this room love the game, but we also have difficulty dealing with some of the ways that it's changed with. So, what do you think, how has the game changed from when you broke in or when you first started? Bruce?
Boy. Well, it's changed. The one thing on the field that's changed is the stealing the bases. They've actually made a pretty good science to stop the guy from stealing. You've got to be a pretty good base stealer now to steal a lot of bases. I mean, they've, with their quick to the plate and all that, the stuff they do with the step outs and all that, they just don't steal a lot of bases like they used to. The game itself, of course, the media is so much more with TV. They can really dissect every little part of the game. So it seems like, I'm not 100% sure, but listening to the guys, a lot of the reporters used to pretty much just report on the game. Now it's, they look for a lot of different angles to report, different little things that don't have quite as much to do with the game as they did in the past, but, and the money, of course, the money's a big difference, but, you know, everyone's doing well. I mean, the players are doing well, the owners are doing well. And TV is a big thing. TV's throwing a lot of money into the game. I know during the first strike years, I don't know how accurate it is, but I know the first strike years, you know, there was a certain percentage went into player salaries. And then, of course, you know, the big thing was the players wanted to steal all the money and all that stuff, but it come out later that when the players started making good money, the same percentage was really going into salaries that was going in before. It's just TV had thrown so much more money into it. Financially, I think baseball is doing great. I hope it keeps doing great. But the on-field thing, I think, is probably, well, the parks are, I'm guessing they're smaller than they were in the old days. The big difference, I guess, from there's so many baseball teams, and I hope there always is, because that means there's more jobs and everything's going good. But if you only had 16 teams or 20 teams in baseball, you wouldn't see the 60, 70 home runs you saw a few years ago, because that would knock a lot of, you know, make your pitching staff so much better. But I hope that never happens. I hope we always have 30 teams at least. And, you know, baseball's still, I think, pretty good. I mean, it's still the most talked game I've seen, you know, going to the golf course, everything. Well, we have a lot of Cub fans, and we can razz the hell out of them whenever we can, and Cardinal fans. So. But the stolen bases on the field, I guess, would probably be the one thing that comes to my mind right off the bat.
Don, how has the game changed from your perspective?
Well, they've got considerably longer. And obviously, we don't get paid by the hour, but because they're so commercialized, they have to have so much time between every half inning. And I think it's hard for a pitcher to go out and pitch a half inning and then go sit in the dugout for a half inning. And then before he comes back out, we've got to give him another 45 or a minute and 20 seconds. And he'll hang around in there. They just don't seem to get that momentum, that comfort zone where they can go out there and continue to throw. And I think, you know, when I came up in 1969, they could play a baseball game in 2 hours and 15 minutes. Now it takes them 3 hours to play the same game. Some of that, obviously, a lot of that is commercials and what have you, but there's a lot of signals going on. Everybody, you know, some coaches have to call every pitch. You have to signal a catcher, tell him what to tell the pitcher to throw, and guys got to step out all the time, you know, and then get back in. And you know, I never thought the game was that tough, although I wasn't playing it, I was just umpiring it. But it has gotten really long, and obviously the money's a big difference. And you see the changes in uniforms and how they've have gone through different cycles. And some liked the long pants, and some liked them just to the knee, but they've made a lot of changes in the uniforms. But above all, it was the time of the game.
Thank you. Art, how has the game changed from your perspective?
Well, it's changed quite a bit. First, the gloves was a lot larger than we had. We had gloves just about a little larger than your hand. And one thing about it, it's really changed. They're wearing their pants now all the way like you're going out to play golf or somewhere. See, in my day, baseball players look like baseball players, like Babe Ruth and all them guys, and Lou Gehrig and all them guys. They look like ball players. These guys now look like softball players. Got their pants hanging down, some of them's too long. It's a wonder they don't trip over them. I don't like that at all. And that's one reason I watch the game. But see these guys walk up there, and some of them got the regular pants. They look good when they got the pants right, like you got yours over there.
Thank you.
So it's changed quite a bit, especially the money, and they got some pretty good ball players there. And Bonds, he got his pants, and he'd look a lot better if he wore them right instead of long. I don't like to see him wear them pants like that. I like to see them like baseball players used to have them. And So I just, well, a lot of things have changed in baseball now. You don't, just like people go in the Hall of Fame and thing. Anybody with baseball have been baseball fans all their life, they should know Pete Rose should be in the Hall of Fame right now, not keep on thinking about it. He was a great ball player. So, and Bonds, he should be there, and they shouldn't. Bonds was a player, you know, he never was too friendly with the crowd. He's a fellow that I met him in Kansas City not too long ago, and he's just an ordinary guy. He don't seem like he's happy with you. He don't seem he walk up and speak to you and shake hands with you, but that's about it. And that's one reason he's not like Willie Mays. Willie Mays, he'll grin all the time and talk. So, but see, I played against Mays and all those guys, but I never played against Bonds, because Bonds he's a young man, because he's still hitting that ball, and I think he's trying to hit that 800 home run like Josh Gibson. Josh Gibson hit 800, and some fella from Japan hit 800 and some home runs. So I think Bonds going to stick around and hit 800 home runs. So, but this guy Rodriguez might catch him, you know. He's a great ball player. He's got over 500 ball hits, home runs now, and he's a young man. But that's what Bonds, I don't think he's going to be with Frisco next year. I think the Yankees should get him with that little short park they got there, the right field. They should get him, and he'd be sure to hit over 800 home runs. But 700 home runs, that's a lot of home runs. Because my whole career, I don't think I hit over 400 home runs in my whole career. And we used to play 3 games a day. We play in Yankee Stadium, leave Yankee Stadium, play a doubleheader in Yankee Stadium, leave in the bus and drive all the way to Birmingham, never sleep in the bus and play a doubleheader there. See, the games it didn't bother me because I would always sleep all the way in the bus. I just ride back and seat. We had good buses. But the game I noticed today, it's a good game, but I enjoy watching it because I watch the Cubs, but I'd rather watch the Yankees, but you can't get the Yankees too often in my town, Cedar Rapids. They're mostly the Cubs and Braves. And the Braves, they got a good team too, but that's about it. They've changed. The main thing is the gloves and the pants. They just don't look good to me with long pants. Look like they're wearing the pajamas.
Your favorite park that you either umpired in or played in? Go ahead.
The ballparks are so much nicer. The grass, there's nobody's yard looks like ballpark. I wish everybody's yard at home looked like ballparks, infield and outfield. The ballparks, and a big change I think is the bats too. The bats are more thin handle. They can whip that bat so much quicker through the strike zone and get it going. They talk about the ball being a little bit more livelier than in the 50s and 60s, could be. And when they lowered the mound, that hurt some of the pitchers. But overall, it's a beautiful game. Everybody understands it, and they all know how to play it. So it's not like in football or basketball or something but baseball, everybody knows how to play the game. Mothers and dads, grandfathers and kids, they know how smart, when the butt and everything else. It's the best game of all anyhow.
You have a favorite park?
Los Angeles Dodgers when we was playing, Dodger Stadium, yeah.
Like that?
Yeah,
Okay.
by far, it was beautiful.
Art, did you have a favorite park, ballpark you played in?
Well, a favorite I played in Comiskey Park. That's when we hit one of the longest home runs in Comiskey Park. And see, when the White Sox, the White Sox, when they would go out of town, the American Giants would always play there in Comiskey Park. We played there for about 4 or 5 years till they took all the best ball players. The major leagues broke up the black leagues because they took the best ball players out, and so the leagues kind of died. But Comiskey Park was a great park. I played in all the parks. St. Louis and played in Red Sox Park. I played in practically all of them when they was going. We draw a lot of people because the people would like to see the black players steal bases and slide and this and that. They don't do all that today, you know. They got they got signs and things. I don't know. I don't know who give them. I think the manager, somebody give them, because they watches the dugout and this and that. And I see this manager for the Braves. He is always touching his nose and all that stuff. See, we didn't have that in my day. If you was fast and could steal that base, that you go to it. But Comiskey Park was my great park. I played in Yankee Stadium, and I told my little boy when I took him there one day, I said, we watch him on TV, I said, I stood right there on that same place that Babe Ruth hit his home run on right there. He said, you did? I said, yep. I said, I stood right there at that place, because in them days they had the black Yankees, and they had a heck of a team. Oh, my star. All I can say, I'm glad for them today. They got all the ball players now. They're not like in my day. We was mixed, you know. They wouldn't let us play together and stuff like that. Now they can play together. And Barnes and Hank Aaron and all them guys. You should have seen Josh Gibson. Josh Gibson, I guess you all read about him, but you should have seen that guy. That guy was awful. He would make these guys hitting home run look sad. He hit one out of the whole Yankee Stadium, out in the streets. That's a big park in Yankee Stadium. He was a great ball player. So things have really changed, but I'll say people should vote and make them wear the pants instead of wearing the
Thank you. Don, you've got a totally different perspective as an umpire. I don't know if umpires have favorite stadiums. Maybe it depends on the crowd. But, is there one you like?
Well, probably the prettiest stadium I think that I've ever worked in had to be Kansas City when George Tomel was there, and even the old stadium that, you know, he used to manicure the grass with a scissors, you know, and it was just beautiful. And then they went to AstroTurf when they built the new stadium, and then they took the AstroTurf out and went back to grass. And I think his son is now still the head groundskeeper there and keeps the place just immaculate, and it's beautiful because they got the waterfalls in the outfield between innings, and it's just a whole nice complex there with the football stadium on one side, the baseball stadium on the other. As far as engineering genius is probably that Toronto, the Sky Dome. I'd like to meet the guy that thought about it or thought it up and how he got it across. And that thing will close in about, I think it's like 5 minutes, and you don't hear a sound. I mean, it's so well engineered. The top comes, or the outfield comes up, telescopes up, and then this one big piece runs on a track and comes around, and it's just phenomenal. And it's a great place to play baseball. I don't know if the ball carries a little better there or not, but it's a beautiful park also.
Somebody raised the question, this is to you too, Don. What stadium or fans gave you the most hassle?
Well, you know, the stadiums are kind of like our country, east to west. And you work in the eastern part of the country, and it's, you know, you just don't know what you're going to hear. They're screaming and yelling, and then you get to the Midwest, they're a lot more laid back. And then you get out the West Coast, and sometimes you have to look up to make sure there's people in the stadium. Because you can't hear, you know. But they are rabid. You know, I saw a fight one time when they were redoing Yankee Stadium, so we were playing in Shea Stadium, and there was a fight that started up, and I was standing on the field watching it, and these guys were literally taking the billy clubs from the policemen and hitting the cops over the head with them. And I thought, wow, you know, I'm glad I'm out here and not in there, you know, in the stands. But you know, we really don't hear a lot from the stands unless it's a rain delay and there's only a few people left. And when there's just a few there, you hear every word they say, and they're pretty cruel. You know, but I guess you get used to it, and you know one thing, it's not going to last forever. You can always get out of there eventually, you know. But I'd say, I always enjoyed to come to the Midwest to officiate. I don't know why. I like Milwaukee, I like Minnesota, I liked Kansas City, Texas. But when you had to go east or west, it was just a different ballgame altogether.
Bruce, your favorite stadium?
Favorite parks is Wrigley Field and Fenway. It's a complete different buzz for myself. I mean, Wrigley, it's the old time parks where they're right on top of you. Managing there, even when they start singing the national anthem, it was like it was going to another level for me personally, and it was just a great feeling. Baseball, it's sort of old time baseball. I mean, I considered myself a young guy, but old time baseball, where you love baseball, really, really love it. And Fenway Park is awesome too. The people are right on top of you, the walls out there. I mean, it's really neat, and you really get a great feeling. I'd say those two are my favorite major league parks, and my favorite minor league park is Sec Taylor in Des Moines. People are right on top of you. I'm a little biased because I like the owners there very well, but the people are right there, and to me that's that feeling of old time baseball where the crowds, where I grew up, where the dads and the farmers are hanging over the fence, and saying basically what Art's saying. My dad used to holler, "Throw it and duck," same thing. So I'd heard that many times when he said that. My dad, that was one of his favorite lines. So
I'll give you a follow-up here from someone in the audience here. This is for you, Bruce. Was Mark Fidrich as frustrating to catch as he was to watch?
Mark Fidrich was actually, to duplicate the year he had in '76, it would have been really hard because he was phenomenal that year. He was easy to catch. I mean, he threw the ball right where you wanted it all the time. What a lot of people don't realize about Mark Fidrich, and he was a great pitcher in '76, but he was a great fielder. And every day he didn't pitch, except the day he pitched, he played pepper with Alex Johnson every day. Nobody else was in the game, and he was basically working on his reflexes. He was a great fielder. Anything hit up the middle, if he could reach it, he would get it. But he actually was really easy to catch, and he was easy to work with. One time in Texas, he had a 1-2 count on somebody, and he wanted to throw a changeup. Well, changeup was his third pitch, was really given into the hitter. So I went out to the mound. I'd say, "Mark, I don't think you should throw a changeup." He said, "Okay, let's go." And I think he threw a fast one. The guy hit a rocket right at the center fielder, but he'd do whatever you wanted. He just threw the ball. They used to say he talked to the ball, and what he was doing, he was giving himself, I think, reminders of what he worked with Les Moss a lot in Double-A, and Les Moss his big thing was to always lay back, give your arm time to get on top, and he was just phenomenal. He had 2 games. One game he threw 81 pitches in it, I believe, and the other one 88 pitches in 2 9-inning games, and that's really hard to do. You've got to be really throwing well to do that. And he could strike guys out if he wanted to, but his game was throw a hard running sinker, and they say it was around 93 miles an hour. I don't know how they gauged it then, because I don't think the guns were hardly out then, but a hard running sinker, the guys would try to hit it. We had the grass that long, it seemed like, in Detroit, so they couldn't hit it through it. And they just hit ground balls, and if they got something going against him, then he'd go to a slider. And he had a well above average slider also, and that thing would just take off and strike him out. And I give you a story about Fidrich. We were playing at Yankee Stadium, and they played a trick on Fidrich. He beat the Yankees in Detroit, and they came in and said, Thurman Munson, I guess one of the reporters asked Thurman Munson, John Hiller or something was messing around with Fidrich, said, Thurman Munson said you're Bush or something like that, and it never happened probably, but somehow the writers made a big deal out of it. So we go into Yankee Stadium, and now they've made a big deal out of this, Fidrich and Thurman Munson. Thurman Munson is a great hitter and hard to strike out. Well, Thurman Munson comes up the plate first time, he strikes him out. So Thurman comes up to me, where he comes up to hit, he says, "I'll get him. Sometime tonight I will get him. I will get him." So he hits a little dribbler to third. And then he strikes him out again. He struck him out 2 times in the game. And you just never could strike Thurman Munson out. He could get inside the ball, it seemed like. But Thurman kept saying, "I'm going to get him sometime." He come up in the 8th inning with the bases loaded and 2 outs, and Fidrich struck him out again. I mean, that's how phenomenal he was in '76. Everything he did, it was like something shined on him, and it was going to work out. And he was 19-9 in 29 starts. I think he had 23. I'm not quite sure. I used to see 23, but then somebody else said it was 24. But he had 23 complete games, I think, out of those starts. Now you wouldn't see that today, and that's another thing. Just to go back real quick on what you said. See, it changed. Is the pitch counts on the pitchers. A lot of the great pitchers of all time with these pitch counts, the 110 pitches, they're out of the game, In the old days, they went longer. They went on 4 days rest. Now they go 5 days rest, And it's still a lot of Jim Cotton and I used to talk about it all the time. You know, if they went with a 4-man starting staff and then you kept their pitch count down and built up their bullpen. But I think that is a real big change in the game because Nolan Ryan, if he was coming up today, he probably wouldn't have the number of strikeouts he got because they wouldn't let him pitch. They'd cut him down. And I don't know. I mean, it's an example. One time a coach was up and he said, well, every pitcher, he should throw 45 pitches when he warms up before the game. And I said, well, what if it's 110 degrees out? You know, they've really designated like this is the way everybody does it. And I don't think you can do that with individuals personally. And I think that's a big change in the game is the pitchers. The pitchers, they don't throw nearly like they used to.
Thank you. I've got a question here for Bob Oldis, and Bruce's answer is a perfect lead into this. Please relate your memories of Harvey Haddock's 12 perfect innings in the May of 1959.
I had the honors to be in AAA ball that year, so I did not see that. But I was with Harvey the following year, all year.
All right.
And I did go to Harvey's house. He lived outside of Columbus, Ohio. And we went there during the winter a couple years later, and he did show me, I forget who gave him, 36 glasses, and each glass had what each hitter did, and it was a beautiful memorabilia. And but no, I wish I could have been there. I could have messed that up too for him. But he was one of the all-time great guys.